Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Jay, here to talk about the results and my thoughts of Backlash. WWE's Backlash 2023 live from the island of Puerto Rico. And what a tremendous showcase for the Puerto Rican talent of the WWE, especially Damian Priest and Zelina Vega, who got the loudest ovations of the night. This event was the first pay per view held in Puerto Rico since 2005, which was also a backlash, a backlash pay per view. And it featured Puerto Rican rapper and music superstar Bad Bunny in the main event. And in this pay per view, Bad Bunny proved that he belongs in the WWE. I know in 2021 when he first debuted, a lot of fans was hating on him. A lot of fans were like, "Who's this guy?" He makes a song about Booker T, and all of a sudden, now he has a match on WrestleMania. He doesn't belong. It's just a publicity grab. People don't even know who he is. That wasn't even true back then because he had a huge following on Spotify, the most downloaded Spanish speaking artist on Spotify of the 2020s. So people were just being haters back then, and he showed his credentials in albeit in a tag team match, teaming with Damian Priest against Miz and Morrison. But in this event, he showed his credentials, and Lisa, he showed his credentials as a single star. Him versus Damian Priest. Although that match didn't go on last, that street fight was the true main event. When Bad Bunny came out, the crowd just lost its mind. And one thing I gotta say about this crowd was way more invested in the storylines and in the product than any crowd in the mainland United States. Most of the crowds nowadays, they sit on their hands. They don't really do anything. Yeah, for Seth Rollins' theme, uh, they come out heavily sometimes, but most of the time they don't really react to anything. Most of the time they just sit there. Not this crowd. This crowd reacted to everything from the opening bell, which was Bianca Belair versus Io Sky. And Bianca Belair got booed out of the arena. They was really going for Io Sky, but Bianca, you know, uh, still retained the championship. From that point on, they was making noise for everything. Zelina Vega versus Rhea Ripley. A lot of people knew that Zelina Vega, the queen of the WWE, shout out to Queen Zelina, wasn't going to win the match, but she was the odds-on favorite. She's a New Yorker of Puerto Rican descent, so this was a homecoming for her. Parents was in the crowd, and she came out all decked in clothes of the Puerto Rican flag and everything. She was crying by the end of the night. Rhea Ripley gave Rhea Ripley a hell of a match, and by the end of the night, her fellow LWO members hoisted her on their shoulders. This was really something for and really emotional for as far as being a homecoming. The Bronson Reed match, Bronson Reed versus uh, Bobby Lashley for the U.S. Championship was pretty good. They teased that Roman Reigns was going to come out. He didn't, but it was still a pretty good match. And after that, we had the main event, what I consider as the main event, and that's the Bad Bunny match. Bad Bunny, man, yo, he got such an ovation in this match. And there was a lot of back and forth action. They power bombed him on the table. They choke slammed him on the table. He took hella punishment. The dude looked like he was really hurt, and he fought back valiantly. And after two finishing maneuvers, he finally put uh, Damian Priest away. Not without outside interference though. Both Carlito and Savio Vega, a face from the 1990s, the winner of the 1990s King, 1995 King of the Ring, Savio Vega, in an LWO T-shirt, shows up to help Bad Bunny. First, Carlito comes out, and Carlito, of course, he gets a huge ovation because he was he was on top during the last time they were there, and plus his father is Carlos Colon, famous Puerto Rican uh, uh, wrestling promoter over there, and second generation. He gets a huge ovation. But then when Savio comes out, Savio with the LWO shirt, representing LWO, the crowd just loses their mind for Savio. And I heard a reviewer say that it was kind of similar to like WrestleMania 31 when NWO versus DX came out. Carlito coming out to help the Judgment Day, and Savio coming out representing for LWO, the Latino World Order. So, and then the Usos versus the Usos teaming with Matt Riddle to take on Sammy, uh, to take on, Sami Zayn, the Usos and Solo Sikoa to take on Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, and Matt Riddle. This match was a lot of back and forth action too. Jimmy hit Jey Uso with a super kick, knocking him out, causing dissension between them. And it looked like Solo Sikoa was going to Samoan spike Jimmy Uso, but he didn't. So they're planting the seeds already for a bloodline breakup, and probably I would say Jimmy Uso probably going to be a babyface and probably going to challenge for Roman's title. But we're seeing it week after week with Solo Sokoa slowly striking out on his own, even going against Paul Heyman. So we got to see what that's going to bring in the next coming weeks. And then the main event with Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes' story continues, as Triple H said in the press conference after WrestleMania. Cody Rhodes will story will continue even though he didn't win the championship. He has a hell of a match with Brock Lesnar, takes several suplex cities, even bust Brock Lesnar open. So for the first pay-per-view post the Endeavor purchase, we see blood, which we haven't seen in a WWE pay-per-view in a very long time. I can't remember the last time we saw blood on a on a pay-per-view. But Brock Lesnar was busted open. He took hella punishment. Finally, he puts Cody Rhodes in the Kimura lock, and he gets pinned, and Cody Rhodes wins the match. Many people say that Cody Rhodes should not have closed the show, that it should have been Bad Bunny versus Damian Priest, which makes, yeah, real blood, Lisa, of course. It's never, they don't use wrestlers, they cut themselves open. They don't use fake blood, studio blood. Uh, so we're seeing blood, and that's one thing that WWE President Nick Khan said that we would after the new Endeavor purchase, we would see more blood, a return to realism, and uh, you have to do it. I don't know what the hell's in my eye, guys. Sorry, my apologies. You have to do it uh, because now you're under new ownership, you're under new leadership, and plus you're in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico, in the history of professional wrestling, we talked about it with in the Bushwhacker video when Bushwhacker Bush passed away. Puerto Rico has always been one of the most violent territories, guys. When guys used to go over there during the territory days of the 50s and 60s, they would know they would have to turn up the heat. It was known for Abdullah the Butcher having his face all scarred up, and Bruiser Brody having his face all scarred up because of the sheer violence involved and the sheer passion involved with when it came to uh, professional wrestling in Puerto Rico. The sheer it was the most violent territory. It was garbage wrestling. The types of FMW in Japan or ECW in the United States that we've never really seen. People, the fans there would get so wrapped up in the action. They would throw batteries. They would throw jars of urine. People have died. Of course, the unfortunate death of Bruiser Brody in 1988 in the locker room. It was just a very violent territory. So when you go to Puerto Rico, you have to turn up the heat 100% because the fans are so wrapped up. Fans are so passionate and so much more violent and so much more bloodthirsty than they are here in the United States. That's just the way it is. That's just the way that territory um, was always run. That's just the way the fans take it serious over there. In ways they don't here. That's what I love. The crowd, the crowd emotion, and plus, like I said, under new leadership, you're associated now with the UFC. You have to become a little bit more violent. I don't know if the blood, when they decided there was gonna be blood in the match, but I love the fact that the match was a bloodbath. I loved I loved everything about this pay per view. Basically, this is good news because we were like, what's going to happen after the purchase? Is WWE going to change in some way? Are they going to become less creative? But no, Triple H is still involved in creative, obviously, because this was really well put together. The Zelina Vega thing, bringing her mother's slipper out and beating Rhea Ripley with her mother's slipper. That was crazy. The crowd reacted to that. They were all laughing and stuff. They were all singing along with Seth Rollins' theme song when he came out when he took on Omos, and they were booing the hell out of Omos. People are saying that he's the odds-on favorite to win the new championship that they just talked about. So we gotta see what happens in the next coming weeks. With the pay-per-view, but this pay-per-view from Puerto Rico, they should do more pay-per-views over there because, and this always happens every time they go overseas to places that are wrestling hotbeds like the UK and Puerto Rico, not necessarily Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia it's not famous for wrestling. You know what I mean? Like Puerto Rico is or like the UK is. But when they go to heavily wrestling towns outside of the United States, fans always love it and fans eat it up. We saw with Clash of the Castle last year. But anyway, guys, this is a short little video on Backlash 2023. Love you guys. Peace. Lisa, thank you.